Hello, time for more tactics training. Rated 1872 right now for standard. Ideally, you want to try to get to 1900 by the time that it's active. Right now the RD is 126, and I think you need 70 RD to be active. So as long as I get to 1900, I'll be happy by the time we're active, and then try to climb in rating from there. And one lesson I learned from the last few videos is some of them I got wrong when I thought for 10 minutes on the first move, but then there was a surprise variation somewhere within the moves after. And so since I tried to do the whole problem in 10 minutes, just about, it got kind of difficult. So I think what I will do is think for 10 minutes, at least on the first move, and then try to do like at least 5 minutes more if there's some surprise variation, but ideally within 15 minutes total have the problem whether it's right or wrong. So we'll see how well that goes. Okay, starting my timer. Okay, and that's why I took like a little second to explain that before starting the problem and starting the timer, since I think that's the new format I'll try to go for. But queen h5, so at least this is like a middle game. Maybe this came from I was gonna say Roy Lopez, but I don't really know what this came from. But so we'll look at the material first. So we got 2 rooks, got 4 minor pieces. They got 4 minor pieces for 7 pawns. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so material's even. That queen looks, I don't know, is it gonna be trapped or not exactly sure. I do a couple of things to notice. I do see that this bishop can take this guy, although it's not really opening lines. He has a lot of ways to take, but I do see that there's some tension. This rook could take that rook, but then of course the F rook could take back. It's kind of hard to see, like, in general, like, what is the tactic here? Like, it doesn't look like anything's hanging. But I do see that, what if the knight were to move? Well, no. So I was looking at if the knight were to move somewhere, like, let's say e5 for some reason, and they didn't take. I was looking to see if g4 then would be like a fork on the queen and knight, but I feel like queen takes h3, and there's just a whole lot of reasons why we're not in time to play g4, forking those 2 pieces. So it's really kind of confused at what's going on here. I guess candidate moves, that's one thing that's pretty important. I don't see much. If I were to look at checks, captures, and threats, so let's look at all the checks first. There's knight f6 and knight h6. And knight h6, they can take with the knight. And yeah, knight f6, they could take with this knight. And g4 after that, we're already losing a knight, so it probably wouldn't be that kind of thinking. And then the only capture, we have 2 captures. We can either take this pawn with the rook on e6, or bishop takes f5, and it really doesn't seem like either of those are doing anything. I do see the move bishop g5, but I'm not exactly sure it's not really helping trap the queen or anything. So this might just be a blind spot for me. Moves like a4 are like pretty passive. Like if this was a normal game, I might consider something like that and try to like open some files and find something else to attack. But the fact that this is a tactic, and it's not the mixed mode, it's one where you're either winning material or checkmating. And so if there's no checks or captures that are decent, then it has to be a threat, which can be the trickiest ones to see, because it can be like a quiet move that has some type of threat, but no matter what they do, they can't get out of it. But what could that possibly be here? It could very well be one of these like knight moves and then going g4 because it's a tempo on the queen. But I'm not really expecting it to be anything like that. Or at least the lines I calculated didn't really seem to lead to anything. It really looks like black has everything defended. His king doesn't look that unsafe. The only thing that really looks like it could be a possible tactic is going for this g4 move in some lines. Maybe knight g to e5. I haven't seen all the lines yet, but one thing I remember from John Bartholomew's videos is to look for undefended pieces, and the knight on d7 is undefended. And my thinking was, if knight g e5, knight takes e5, pawn takes e5, we're attacking the bishop on d6, and we also have the threat of going g4 still. So he has to move the bishop out the way, and then we go g4, they take on h3, we take on f5 with the pawn, and he's not really going to checkmate us, I don't think. He could try for like a rook lift or something, like rook f6, but it could be something like that that's winning. Now the question is, they don't have to take with the knight. And also, if they try to defend the knight, because once you play knight g5, you're attacking the d7 knight, so they either have to take your knight or protect the knight. So if they protect it with like rook d8 or something, then you can just go g4 and then do that fork. So the only other thing to figure out is what happens if bishop takes e5, because then you're not exactly, and I think I see it now, but after knight g e5, bishop takes e5, I was looking at, well, first I was looking at rook takes e5 for some reason, but the knight's still on d7 in this line, so they could just take, and if pawn takes, then they could get out of they could get away from the g4 fork, because that's the only thing we're trying to threaten next move, so they could just get out of that. But we have a knight on f3, so we can set up the same situation again, where we threaten the knight and threaten the fork, maybe. So if knight g e5, bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, here we are threatening the d7 knight, and we're threatening g4 next move. But if they could just take the knight on e5, so then knight takes e5, and I don't really see a win of material here. That's the problem. But the fact that it seems to work in other lines makes me think it could be the answer for some reason, especially since I don't see any other good forcing moves in the position. Unless it could be knight f to e5 for some reason, but I doubt it because there's a knight on g4 blocking our g4 plan. But it's one move I didn't look at to see all the variations. I'll look at it for a second. So knight f to e5, bishop takes e5. It looks like it leads to the same situation, which means it's probably not right. Okay, so without looking at any of the 95 moves, so really no other candidate moves, anything that's pretty obvious. I don't think so. So knight g, ge5, bishop takes. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5. Maybe rook takes e5, and then I really don't see the winning material. And it's 10 minutes, so we're gonna just have to guess. Although I'll look one more time to make sure that, because this happens a lot where I look at one idea for a while, see another idea, but then don't look at it too deeply and pick the one I'm focused on. But just for this, I'm just gonna make sure that there's nothing wildly different if we go knight fe5. So knight fe5, knight takes e5. Yeah, that's the problem. We can't, because then we could do knight takes e5, but we're not threatening anything, and they could just get out of g4. And if we did pawn takes e5, they can move the bishop out the way, but then the knight's on g4, so we can't play g4. So I'm going to go with knight g e5 and hope for the best. But I really don't see what happens in one of these lines. Okay. Got it wrong. And lost 36 points. So what is the solution? Oh wow, it was this. For some reason it was this. Now before we look at that move, and it's crazy, I was just making that point that I was looking at knight g e5 a lot and took one more look at knight f3, but I kind of, at least I saw the mistake coming before I even started the problem, like I was kind of explaining that. But then because it got to 10 minutes and I was trying to guess right away still, it did kind of, like I did feel kind of rushed towards the end. So I definitely need to speed up my calculation and really figure it out. But it was tough because I had a hard time figuring out the forcing moves in this situation. But either of these moves does force some threats. So we'll see what the solution looks like in a while, but I want to look at this line to see if see exactly what I was missing. Or it might have been what was stopping me from playing it in the first place. So first, let's see if knight takes. Okay, so there's this move I definitely missed. I was looking at this first, and I was thinking here, I don't know, but in all of these lines, I definitely missed queen takes d1. So that's kind of basic. So what's going on with this move? Let's look at the actual solution. So bishop takes. Oh, and okay, yeah, so he can't take the knight because the bishop's here, so he can't take the knight with the queen, I should say. And if they take the knight with anything else, then the queen's hanging. So yeah, that's a well-known tactical pattern. So yeah, though, and when I was looking at like checking moves, like for the forcing moves, it seems like this idea did come into play later, but you had to clear out some other, which is why they got this tag clearance. You had to clear out some of the lines so you can set up that attack. And yeah, and that's the problem with moving this knight first, is that when this knight starts to clear, they can just simplify. So I missed the candidate move by the opponent yet again, and I definitely missed this idea entirely. I just noticed that the G4 ideas weren't working in this line where it appeared to be working in the other line. And so that's why I discarded knight f3. If I had more time, maybe I would have seen that, okay, this move is clearly winning, but yeah, so that was if bishop takes. We can do that. Now, let's see what happens if knight takes. It's probably the same thing, right? Yeah, so you can do knight f6 or knight h6. Knight f6, it says it's a little better, but yeah, I guess, yeah, I should have seen that there's this threat. The threat here, when you look at knight f3 to e5, the threat is doing this knight check and winning this hanging queen. So when I was saying like, oh, John Bartholomew talking about undefended pieces, and when looking for tactics, the only undefended piece I saw that I thought we could take advantage of was this knight on d7, but in reality the queen on h5 was vulnerable, and the only way I could conceive seeing something to do with the queen being on this weird square was to trap it, but I knew that there wasn't really a way to trap it in this situation. But this clearance sacrifice idea was hard for me to see. So yeah, so this was a really instructive puzzle. What was this rating? I lost 1,000,000 points, but okay, 1902. Yeah, so we might not get to 1900 by the time we're active. So okay, 118, maybe, but we have like a bit of a losing streak right now. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Well, first we got the mistakes. And, oh, so I've actually, I can't tell if that was me. Okay, so this was just this attempt today. I haven't done that one before. And, okay, there's a few, well, there's really two main mistakes. So the first one is knight ge5, which is the most common first move mistake. Knight g5 was another mistake that was pretty common for the first move. Maybe the idea here was similar. They wanted to play this on the next move, or well, it doesn't really make much sense to play this one on the next move because after knight takes, the queen is protected by the knight. So maybe they're just trying to do something like set up for bishop h7 in the future if the knight moves here, because also knight g5, you can't go knight h6 because queen can take now, so the bishop isn't on that square anymore. And 2 knight f6, so let's look at that. So here they were going knight f6, and that's exactly what I was talking about. You don't go knight f6 to win the queen because of this. So knight h6 has to be the move. Yeah, so yeah. So that's tough, and actually 2 knight f6 has been played more than my move knight ge5. So it's so close, but still so far. So we'll try to do better in the next one. Thanks for watching. See ya.